It was the 29th day of June, the day I always remember. Yes, I will. Because that day, VAIDS was launched. If I release a song, will you buy? Not to worry. 29th of June 2017. That was the day VAIDS was launched at Aso Villa in Abuja. Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. And as you very well remember, like me, VAIDS effectively took off on July 1st, 2017 to run for 9 months till March 31st, 2018. This is September, so 2 months are gone already. And we don't want you to take your eyes off the ball. And that is why today our focus is on VAIDS, Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. If you embrace the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme between now and the end of December 2017, you will have both interest and penalty on the unpaid taxes completely waived. And if you know that interest is 21% and penalty is 10%, you will agree that it is quite a huge relief. If, however, you come forward from January 1st, 2018 till the end of VAIDS on March 31st, 2018, you will pay interest on the unpaid taxes, but you will still have penalty waived. Remember once again, interest is 21%. Time is ticking. But then, what exactly is VAIDS about?
The Voluntary Asset and Income Declaration Scheme, VAIDS, will be operated from July the 1st, 2017 until the 31st of March, 2018. This is being operated by the Federal Inland Revenue Service and all the state boards of inland revenue and applies to all taxes. VAIDS will offer a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to those in default to regularize their tax affairs. In exchange for full and honest declaration, taxpayers will receive immunity from prosecution, forgiveness of penalty and interest that is due on unpaid taxes, and the full assurance that all information provided will remain confidential. In addition, participants in the scheme will not be selected for audit investigation for the period covered.
As you heard from the Vice President, the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VAIDS, is a window under which those who have failed to pay their taxes over the years, or who have not paid in full, who have not adequately declared their income and assets, and so have not paid due taxes on those income and assets, can come forward, accept liability, make arrangements, and pay the due taxes. And you have a window of 9 months from July 1st, 2017 to March 31, 2018 to do that. And the sweetener is that there's no punishment for coming forward. Oh yes, you have committed an offense, you have not paid your taxes in due time, but then the government has decided that during these 9 months, July 1st, 2017 to March 31, 2018, there will be no interest if you come forward before December. If you come forward after December, there will be no penalty paid on those unpaid taxes. There will be no prosecution. There will be no tax audit. And who are we talking about? You earn salary, regular salary from paid employment, whether in the public or private sector. They call it pay as you earn. But then you have other incomes. You get call duty allowance. You get paid for speaking at conferences and workshops. You get overtime allowances. You have dividends. You have rental income. All those are supposed to be declared, and taxes are to be paid on them. Or you are a company owner and you pad expenses. Those things that are supposed to be personal expenses, you pass under company expenses. Come out clean. Declare your true income. Declare the assets of the company. Declare the assets of the company owners. Pay due taxes and go and sin no more. But then, if you want, after the window of opportunity closes on March 31st, 2018, the tax authorities reserve the right to wield the big stick. And we're talking about all the 36 states and the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It's a joint effort. It's a collective effort. Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. Call it tax amnesty and you are dead right. Following the formal launching of VAIDS on June 29 and the takeoff on July 1st, all government officials who have one thing or the other to do with taxation have seized every opportunity to spread the gospel of VAIDS. At one of such events organized by a tax consultancy firm, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, used the occasion to talk about the decision of government to toe the line of debt forgiveness rather than punishment.
There were two paths that we could have taken with the data we had. One was to begin to go after people. Go after a few high-profile people, name them, shame them, take them to court, and then everybody will come in. But we decided to take the other option, which is to leave a voluntary window for people to come in and do the right thing at the right time for Nigeria. We now have, of course, with technology, the capacity to drive tax compliance in a way that hasn't been seen before. Before BVN, it was impossible to know how many accounts any individual had. Before the beneficial ownership register, people could hide behind shell companies in the British Virgin Islands, another shell company in Mauritius. All that is irrelevant from the beginning of 2018. All those veils will be lifted, and we'll be able to see clearly who the beneficial owner is. The British, the American, everybody signed up to share information on beneficial ownership register. So to an extent, there is really nowhere to hide anymore.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEET, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
At the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board, which was held on the 14th of August in Abuja, the theme was administering VAIDS, the roles of stakeholders. And so Tax Matters used the opportunity to speak to some of the drivers of the VAIDS scheme. Professor Sonny, you made a presentation at this 138th Joint Tax Board meeting about the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme. And we take a particular note of the fact that you told your audience that this has been done in many jurisdictions. You made examples of about 6 countries. What will be the challenges that you envisage, given our level of tax compliance, the level of technology, peoples, and process?
The major challenge that I see is that because we do not have the history of tax prosecution, the history of Nigeria, it is doubtful if any high network, any celeb had actually been successfully prosecuted for tax evasion, which is something very commonplace in other nations. So because of this, people might say, well, we've never actually seen any effort in that regard, and so they may be skeptical about the outcome. But anyone who treads that type of path may actually be taking serious risk. Looking at the demonstration of political will at the highest level, it would have been better, in my view, if government has stepped up the enforcement by actually making scapegoat of a few before the introduction. But even if that wasn't done, here we are. 9 months will soon be here, and we will see whether government will actually bite and not just back. But from all indication, government seems poised. You can see the FIRS chairman saying that there will not be any sacred any sacred cow. So we wait and watch.
When you talk about going after high net worth individuals, would that not amount to witch hunting?
No, not at all. In any nation, in times like this, there are two major steps that government must do in order to address the problem on a sustainable basis. You look for loopholes that are being exploited by high net worths because they can engage professionals in order to lawfully do it, and some of the time manipulate the system. So you look for lawful ways that are being exploited to reduce their payment of taxes and then plug them lawfully. That won't happen in a GV. It may require some intervention in terms of amendment of tax law and all that. So the second one is those who are earning more, they should also bear their own fair share.
Is tax amnesty fair? Because that essentially is what this VAIDS scheme is all about. Here I am paying my taxes in due time, paying adequate taxes. Somebody does not pay, and then you now say you are giving him amnesty. You are asking him to go and sin no more. Is it fair on those who have been paying?
Well, that's a fundamental issue. And like I said in my presentation, some taxpayers who have always been complying, in some other jurisdictions have even gone to court. And they were seeking order of mandamus to stop or to compel the tax authority from collecting the tax due. But the court held that, look, this is the prerogative of government and it doesn't amount to an abuse of the power of the tax authority. You see, one of the major challenges in Nigeria is that we have a very thin taxpayers base. So the tax authorities keep going to the same set of people. So ultimately, if we widen the tax net, it's in the interest of all. So that by the time we bring everybody to the tax net to discharge their duties and their responsibility, there will also be a measure of relief on the part of those who are high compliance. So we need to take a medium and a long-range view of this. So we shouldn't see it in terms of government encouraging tax delinquency and all that. No. Rather, it's a strategic move which other nations have practiced, which unfortunately we are coming to terms very late, but never too late, to actually expand the tax net. And I commend it.
Some state authorities are currently engaged in tax audit. The FRA is also engaged in audit. Do I have the right as an individual or a corporate organization to plead that the tax authority stop the audit that is going on and let me go under the cover of VAIDS? That is to say, can VAIDS, my decision to participate in VAIDS, can it make the tax authorities stop the auditing that is going on?
Okay, like I explained, VAIDS is not about stopping audit. VAIDS is about declaring your income and your assets, okay? The one you have not declared in the last 6 years, okay? And pay the tax due on those income. Now, if you are already being audited on the returns you have filed with the state government or the returns you have filed with the federal government, that is no longer a declaration. You have already, those information are already known to the tax authority. So you cannot say that, stop the audit and let me make declaration. You are not declaring anything because you are being audited on the basis of your self-assessment, and which is the tax regime that we use in Nigeria. Individuals, companies are expected to file their return on self-assessment basis. After filing, the tax authority will now come forward to check whether what you have filed is correct. It's different from those who have not even filed at all, those who have not made any declaration by way of income or tax before. Those are the people that can come under VAIDS and say that, I've never filed, I've not been filing, or I've not been filing correctly. These are additional things that I want to now declare. Those ones are the ones that are covered under VAIDS. So if you are being audited, you cannot stop audit. But if after being audited, you still now know that there is repercussion after VAIDS, even for those who have been audited before, there is still repercussion after VAIDS. If there are additional information that is already known to the tax authority, and you know they can move against you, On the basis of that, you can declare those things that have not been declared in your self-assessment. On that basis, you can come under VAT, but not that current audit, which is reviewing what you are declared to tax authority to stop. No, that is not the importance. That is not the essence of VAT.
But why don't the authorities want to go the full hog? Amnesty is amnesty. You want to forgive me my sins. You want to forgive us our sins. Why don't you just take everything together?
Well, from what I have seen from the body language of the tax authority, it appears that even now, if you are audited and you appeal for waiver of penalty and interest, the tax authorities have the right to waive if they feel. So if they think that will encourage those who are already complying to continue to comply, they can waive penalty and interest. It's under the law. Okay, you don't need to come under VAT to get waiver. You just appeal and maybe undertake to comply going forward. They will willingly give you waiver. That is different. Well, this is a one-time program that expects you to now make declaration of those you have not been declaring in the past. Thank you.
That's comforting. What efforts are being made to guide the populace to know what to do under VAIDS? You spoke about the CTLOs, the Community Tax Liaison Officers. What role are they going to play going forward? And what other things are being put in place to ensure that those who don't know what to do will know what to do before time runs out?
Okay, a lot of programs are in place, apart from the CTLO, like you said. The CTLOs are the Community Tax Liaison Officers that are being trained. At least about 200 CTLOs officers will be trained for each state. Okay, they are supposed to support the effort of each state and the Federal Inland Revenue Service on making tax compliance known to people. I mean, to explain the reason why they should comply, how they should comply, how to complete the declaration form, okay, how to fill the form, and then, of course, educate those who have not been compliant, the essence of VAT, the essence of even complying with tax. They have been trained on how to approach people. They have been trained on basic tax principles so that they can educate the people. They are also going to be useful for the new tax Thursday that is in place. They are going to join the existing tax authority to propagate the fact that tax payment is a civic responsibility which every individual must, desire to comply with.
As somebody desirous, either as an individual or as a corporate body, desirous of taking advantage of VAIDS, what should I expect from tax consultants like you? I mean, you work for a tax consulting firm. What help, not for free, what help would tax consultants be able to render to those who want to take advantage of VAIDS?
Yeah, in all honesty, we really want almost everybody that needs to be in the tasknet to come to the tasknet. Is the biggest way you demonstrate patriotism about your country. So the vast majority of people who needs to come under VAIDS won't even need consultants, which is why the system has been designed for you to be able to do it yourself. If you are conversant with using the internet, you can go online to VAIDS website. If you don't like internet, go to VAIDS office, and there will be CTLOs and other trained officers of the Revenue Authority to guide you through the process. Now, but for people who can afford it, and some people, their issues are complicated because they are rich people, they have a lot of businesses. So what consultant will be able to help them do is to help them walk through the process in a very painless manner, so that the only thing you need to worry about is remembering what you want to disclose. The rest of it, the consultant will help you with. That's why, as part of this VAIDS program, the Ministry of Finance has approved for training of professionals, lawyers, accountants, and tax practitioners, so they understand what they have to do, because in addition to doing VAIDS for themselves, they help other taxpayers to comply, both local, domestic, and multinational taxpayers.
Finally, still on VAIDS, if I decide, for example, that I want to take advantage of the opportunity offered by VAIDS, where do I go?
Well, as an individual, you'll go to your state revenue agency. Now, in terms of dealing with foreign investments, for example, the Federal Inland Revenue Service is the known source to represent the federal government. So if we have information on a state taxpayer and we collect the revenue on behalf of the state, that revenue will be sent to the state revenue board.
Because we understand that some taxpayers may have challenges raising cash, we have built in a system that will allow those owing to pay over a period of time. subject to conditions. Upon expiry of the scheme, we'll consider those who have failed to take advantage of this offer or who have declared falsely to be willful tax defaulters and economic saboteurs. We will then proceed with aggressive investigation with a view to criminal prosecution. We'll also publish a tax defaulters list to name and shame those refusing to do the right thing.
From Nigeria, we move to Ghana, where Nigeria's tax czar, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, was the chairman at the opening ceremony of the 7th Annual International Tax Conference of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Ghana, which was held between the 23rd and 25th of August 2017 in Accra, Ghana. In his address, Mr. Babatunde Fowler harped on the imperatives of diversifying the base of African economies from a resource base to a tax base.
The area of taxation has now come to the forefront, not only in Africa, but the world over. Last week I was in Paris to sign certain agreements at the OECD, and it is clear that not only the developed countries, but also the developing countries are in need of all tax revenue. The area of the sale of natural resources to fund budgets is certainly over. If one takes a look over the next 5 to 10 years, and you hear what plans or strategies people have in terms of oil or natural resources, they're talking about electric vehicles, they're talking about shale oil, replacing oil, they're talking about the reserves that Saudi Arabia has, enough reserves for the next 10 years to fund their budgets without selling one drop of oil. So certainly, as we sit here today, the price determinants for oil right now is on the consumer side, not on the producers. And oil being the gold that we used to know in Africa is no longer the gold. And even the gold price is suspect. So now I think we as Africans have to turn a new leaf. We have to start to fund our budgets through taxation, and taxation is the only way to go.
The 7th Annual International Conference of the CITG was attended by a heavy delegation from Nigeria made up of tax administrators and tax practitioners, in keeping with the spirit of good brotherliness amongst tax institutes and tax collecting authorities within the West African sub-region. Give honor to whom honor is due is eternal wisdom. The role Mr. Fowler played in Ghana was indeed honor well deserved. But if you think this prophet has no recognition at home, you are mistaken, because for Mr. Fowler, it is from one honor to another, from one recognition to another. A few days after the Ghana outing, precisely on Sunday, the 27th of August 2017, the Rotary Club of Wuse 2 in Abuja, otherwise known as the Mayor's Club, organized her 2017 Humanitarian Award Night. One of the recipients of awards on that night was Mr. Babatunde Fowler, who was given the Humanitarian Personality Award for 2017. Mr. Fowler was represented at the event by Alhaji Saliu Alkali, the FRS State Coordinator for the FCT, Nasarawa and Kogi states. The organizers made copious references to Mr. Fowler's sterling performance at the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service over the period of more than a decade, leading up to his well-deserved appointment in August 2015 as the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and Chairman Joint Tax Board, where he again is blazing the trail. Alhaji Alkali received the award certificate and plaque on behalf of Mr. Fowler. In the acceptance speech, Alhaji Alkali pledged the determination of Mr. Fowler and his able team at the FRS to the running of an efficient and friendly tax system in Nigeria. Mr. Fowler, keep shining, keep moving on. And to our viewers, especially those who pay their taxes as and when due, keep shining. Let's do this again next week, same station, same day of the week, and it will be time for a fresh episode of Tax Matters. Have a good week ahead.